For my YouTube channel, I like to present topics that are perennial, but sometimes I react to a passing situation in the news. But this topic won't pass as fast as others I've done before because it's linked to the Covid-19, the coronavirus epidemic, this pandemic. But I also want to link it to the behaviour of the media. My wise late Auntie Marion said that there is too much news. There's 24 hours to fill. And we've got the Today programme, 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the morning. You've got 3 hours to fill, 2 hours at the weekends. We've got television news all day long. And Chris Myrie said on Evening News, after he'd announced that there was something floating in the sea, well, it's either going to be jetsam or flotsam. Perhaps it was, in this case, jetsam. It was linking to the story of the aircraft that disappeared into the Pacific Ocean. And he wanted us to stay up all evening and watch his news programme while we were enhancing his CV. And in the end, they never found the plane. So that would have been an utter waste of time, just sitting up watching that non-story. And another time I realised, what am I doing sitting here for 25 minutes? I was watching an aeroplane taxiing in the United States of America, lining itself up with a red carpet, and the leader of China stepped onto the United States soil for the first time. I spent 20 minutes watching that functional event, which meant nothing in the end. So I tend to like to watch the news to sum up, not follow it blow by blow. And a lot of the news is comments and reactions, which are not news in itself. Recently, Sir Keir Starmer was voted the new Labour Party leader. And we had to have none other than the disgraced former Prime Minister, Tony Blair, offering his comments about Sir Keir. And why do we need him or need comments from other people? Because these comments in the end mean nothing. And they're endemic. When Mandela died, there was about 50 people's comments recorded. Even when I was involved, they phoned me up, the BBC from Bristol, said, "Oh, can you come in? Mandela died 20 minutes ago. Can you come and make a comment?" And a friend of mine said at the time, well, all these Mandela comments, there were people struggling with floods in the east of England. And a lot of the news is speculation. A friend of mine told me that 30 years ago, and it's got worse. The media like to be in one step of reality. And Starmer, when he was elected leader, wants to grab headlines, so he's pressurising the government. One of the first people to say this, we've got to have an exit policy from the lockdown. This was a week after the so-called lockdown. And of course, lockdown, dramatic word. Oh, I was involved in the lockdown. Media love dramatic words. But it's not a lockdown. The likes of myself, I can go sauntering around Tesco with my trolley. I can then go for a 12.5-mile cycle ride, post some books at the post office, pop into the pet shop to get some fish flake, pop into Hurley's to get some sweets, don't tell my dentist. And the media like to apply pressure to government officials. It's speculation. And now they're talking about this exit strategy when we're only 3 weeks into this so-called lockdown, which I think should last for 3 months. And they want to talk about an exit policy. And once you do that, if the populace focuses upon an exit, they're less likely to take staying at home and social distancing as serious as it must be and focus upon that difficult task. We have to starve out the hosts of this virus. So we need to focus on the present and not the future. And slight detract, on the Today programme last Saturday, the presenter was asking a man from the theatre companies, oh, when do you think theatres will reopen? Well, I knew as soon as he asked the question we're going to learn nothing. And after about 4 minutes, I thought, we have learned nothing because he doesn't know when they're going to reopen. Nobody does. The trouble with human beings, and especially in the media, they always want to know for sure what's going to happen. They always want to be accomplished fortune tellers. And we're in a situation where tragically 1,000 people are dying every day. And this is before the first peak of the virus. So how can we know what an exit strategy looks like until we observe other countries? And we're in the middle of the woods. How are we going to know what the exit strategy landscape looks like from in the middle of the woods when we're not on the edge of the woods? I like news, not speculation. We had the Prime Minister in hospital, which was bone-shaking to hear that he was in intensive care, but Downing Street issued very few details, and the media spent 30 minutes one evening trying to find out exactly what was wrong with him, and nobody knew, and they kept bringing in all these contributors hoping for a nuance of new information, extrapolation, and we were just listening to overlaps. We were listening to repetitive information, and I learned hardly anything in half an hour, and what I learned could have been said in 2 minutes as opposed to half an hour. So you can waste an awful lot of the time listening to the news these days. I like news which is here and now. So I have been following news ever since I was a teenager, but you've got to analyse, am I wasting my time listening to all this blow by blow news, which a lot of it is just repetition. If we have an earthquake, the scenarios are very, very similar. And this virus, the BBC can contribute toward people's deterioration in mental health. They're asking us to sit down, get strapped in your chair and watch the developments all day long. And if you don't watch the TV and you stay at home, you can actually feel at times that life is quite normal and you stay quite happy. But when you're asked to follow latest developments, and then you hear the press, the broadcasts of the government statements at 5 o'clock every day, and they get asked questions from journalists, and some of these politicians still can't even answer the questions accurately, or they avoid them even in these times of crisis. So I like factual, succinct news and discussion of the main points, not necessarily piling in contributors and speculating. Thanks for your interest, and follow the news selectively.